Welcome to the Crosscreek On Demand podcast, a podcast for you because God is for you. Today, we're starting a new series about what it really looks like when God shows up in the middle of our mess. Not after we fix things, not when life looks perfect, but right in the middle of the mistakes, the chaos, and the regret. In this first episode, we'll look at the story of Jacob, someone who made a total mess of his life trying to control everything himself. But even then, God didn't give up on him. He met Jacob right where he was and gave him a brand new name and a brand new start. So, does God still show up after you've completely blown it? Good question. Let's talk about it together. Okay, imagine this. You're lying awake at 3 a.m., worried, angry, anxious. And it feels like either God's given up on you or he's just ignoring you. Have you ever been there? Yeah, I've been there a lot. And if we're honest, every one of us has felt forgotten by God at some point. And maybe you're there right now, wondering if God cares or even if he's listening. So, over the next 6 weeks, we're going to see how God interacts with people who are messy, broken, and uncertain. We'll look at what it means for him to meet people in the middle of their real life. And one of those stories is about Jacob. It's a great story because it reads less like a fairy tale and more like a soap opera. His choices rip his family apart. They bring disaster on himself and those he loves. So if you've ever wondered, where's God when I've made a huge mistake? Has God given up on me? Or does God care when I have to deal with the fallout of my own choices? Jacob's story is for you. Because what Jacob discovered is God doesn't wait for us to clean up our mess. He meets us in it. But before Jacob's story makes sense, we have to rewind a little bit. So around 2000 BC, in ancient Mesopotamia, God made a promise to Jacob's grandfather, Abraham. This is Genesis 12. God says, I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. All the families on earth will be blessed through you. And so God starts his rescue plan for humanity with a regular guy and a regular family. But Abraham and his wife face decades of waiting for this promise to be fulfilled. And they don't wait perfectly. They make huge mistakes with serious, lasting consequences. But God keeps promising. And even though Abraham and his wife were a mess, God keeps his promise and gives him a son, Isaac. And so we fast forward and Isaac grows up. He marries. His wife becomes pregnant with twins who fight from the very beginning. And the first one born is Esau. And then Jacob comes, grasping his brother's heel, which is a little foreshadowing, because grasping the heel in their culture was another way of saying grasping for advantage or scheming. And Jacob lives up to his name. His schemes weave a web of pain and division through his entire family. And so the father, Isaac, loves Esau, the rugged hunter. But his wife, Rebekah, loves Jacob, the stay-at-home cook. And this favoritism poisons the family. One day, Esau comes back from hunting, and he's famished, and Jacob's at home making some stew. So Jacob schemes up a deal. He refuses to feed his brother unless Esau gives up his firstborn's rights, a privilege tied to spiritual leadership and God's promise. And Esau didn't care about spiritual things like that, so he trades his future for a meal. But Jacob's mom wants even more for him, and so together they scheme to deceive Isaac and steal Esau's blessing, which was a public spiritual pronouncement that determined the direction of the family for generations. So Isaac, he's old and blind. He calls for Esau to bless him, but Jacob shows up in disguise, and he gets the father's blessing and rips his family apart. See, Jacob couldn't wait on God. He wanted the blessing and promise on his own terms. So he tricks his old, blind dad, trusting his own strategies and manipulation instead of trusting God. What a jerk, right? But how many of us have tried to get what we want from God by cutting corners, manipulating, or acting holy instead of just trusting that he's enough? See, we try to force God's hand to go get what we want from him when we want it. We try to manipulate him through promises and deals or using our good or religious deeds as leverage. Some even try to tell God what to do by claiming something or declaring outcomes they want. And like Jacob, our grasping for control leaves a trail of damaged relationships and empty victories. And when Esau finds out what happened, he threatens to kill Jacob. And so Rebekah, the mom, panics and urges Jacob to run for his life and hide with her brother Laban far from home. And alone, exhausted, and scared, with nothing to show for all his scheming, Jacob flees into the night. And when everything seems ruined, God shows up. Genesis 28. At sundown, he arrived at a good place to set up camp and stopped there for the night. Jacob found a stone to rest his head against and lay down to sleep. As he slept, he dreamed of a stairway that reached from the earth up to heaven, and he saw the angels of God going up and down the stairway. At the top of the stairway stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your grandfather Abraham and the God of your father Isaac. The ground you are lying on belongs to you. I am giving it to you and your descendants. Your descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth. They will spread out in all directions, to the west and the east, to the north and the south. And all the families of earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. What's more, I am with you, and I will protect you wherever you go. One day I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have finished giving you everything I've promised you. What? Why? Why would God meet Jacob now? After everything he's done, why would God reaffirm his promise to the schemer Jacob? Jacob hasn't done anything to deserve this, just like Abraham before him. See, the reason is God's mercy and care are never earned. God shows up not because we deserve it, but because of who he is. Even before God speaks, here's what's interesting. This vision Jacob has shows him just how different God is from what the people at the time and what people today think he is. See, in a world and time where people built these towers like ziggurats, look it up, to reach distant gods, God shows that he comes down to us. We don't have to work our way up to him. Every other religion is about climbing and striving and sacrificing to impress or reach the deity. But God steps down, pursues, and builds a bridge to us. And now you'd think, after seeing angels, hearing God's promise, that Jacob would become a new man overnight, right? Nope. Pretty soon, he's back to his old self and his old ways. So while staying with his uncle Laban, Jacob falls for his cousin Rachel, which apparently was okay back then. But Laban deceives him. Seems to be a family trait. And after working 7 years to marry Rachel, Laban marries Jacob to Rachel's older, not as pretty sister, Leah. And then after another 7 years, Laban lets Jacob marry Rachel, and Jacob clearly favors Rachel over Leah. And then later, Jacob tricks Laban back, taking the best of the family flocks. It's like this broken cycle of manipulation breeding more manipulation. It's a messed up family. See, even after meeting God, Jacob doesn't change overnight. He goes right back to his old self. And we can judge him and laugh and whatever, but we do the same thing, don't we? We encounter God. We have this mountaintop experience. Maybe we even promise to change. And then just a few days later, we go back to living life our own way, following the same patterns and habits, trying to make our own things happen. Why? Because true transformation takes more than a single mountaintop moment. And Jacob's scheming finally catches up to him. Laban's family turns against him, and he's forced to run for his life again. But even in this, God warned and protected Jacob. Not because Jacob's good, but because God is faithful to his promise, and he needed Jacob to get the message. So as Jacob's heading back home, the fear rushes in, because it's been years, but he's pretty sure Esau isn't the forgive and forget type. And all his scheming is finally going to be the end of him. And so the night before facing Esau, Jacob sends his family ahead and spends the night alone. He's probably afraid, vulnerable, he's totally exposed. And in that moment, God comes for him again. Genesis 32. This left Jacob all alone in the camp, and a man came and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. When the man saw that he would not win the match, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of its socket. Then the man said, "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." "What is your name?" the man asked. He replied, "Jacob." "Your name will no longer be Jacob," the man told him. "From now on, you will be called Israel, because you have fought with God and with men and have won." "Please tell me your name," Jacob said. "Why do you want to know my name?" the man replied. Then he blessed Jacob there. Jacob named the place Peniel, which means face of God. For he said, "I have seen God face to face, yet my life has been spared." The sun was rising as Jacob left Peniel, and he was limping because of the injury to his hip. So this is weird, right? But this is actually the turning point of Jacob's story. See, he comes face to face with God himself, and some believe this was a physical appearance of Jesus before being born to Mary, which we call a Christophany, and he wrestles with him. And have you ever spent a sleepless night wrestling with God? Like, why, God, is this happening? Where are you right now? What am I supposed to do right now? And all his life, Jacob grabbed what he wanted by trickery and scheming. But this struggle isn't about leverage, it's about desperation. He won't let go because he needs God more than anything else. He needs God's blessing more than anything else. And for the first time, he clings to God as his only hope. And because of that, in his life, God gives Jacob a new name. He says, you're not Jacob anymore. You're not that cheat anymore. You're Israel. Israel means God fights or God prevails. See, Jacob's old identity as deceiver and manipulator is replaced with a new identity, Israel, one who wrestled with God and survived. And meeting God didn't just wound him physically, it transformed who he was and how he saw himself. And his new name becomes the name of God's people, Israel, a nation born out of wrestling and clinging to God even in weakness. And for some reason, we think wrestling with God, questioning, doubting, even crying out in anger, makes God mad at us. But God actually invites us to wrestle with him, to bring our questions and our hurts, everything, the good, the bad, the frustrating. This wrestling is refusing to run away. It's refusing to let go, like Jacob. Just like a dad who wrestles with his kid, right? Not to harm them or humiliate them, but to enjoy them, to be close to them. And the story highlights something key to understanding and knowing God. God comes to us right where we are, but refuses to leave us defined by our old failures. The wrestling leads to transformation. When you finally wrestle with God and see both his strength and his love, everything changes. You realize he's been pursuing you all along, and you can stop chasing control, and you can stop hiding your mess. And he still meets us at our lowest, wrestling us down until we stop pretending and start surrendering. When we trust him, the one who came and died and rose for us, he gives us a new name, child of God. Not because we've cleaned ourselves up, but because his love defines us now. And maybe you've worn a name your whole life, whether it's failure, disappointer, screw up. God wants to rename you too. Child of God, chosen, loved, not because you've earned it or because you deserve it, but because he loves you. See, Jesus fulfilled God's promise to bless the world. He wrestled for you. He died for you. He rose for you. And he's ready to give you a new name, not defined by your past, but by his redeeming love. He wants to give you a new identity, a new way of living, secure in his love. If you've been running, pretending, or hiding, what would it look like to pause, turn, and wrestle honestly with God? And trust what he has already done for you in Jesus. So here's my invitation this week. It's simple. Wrestle with God. Take some time on the way to work, laying in bed, 2 a.m., in the shower, and tell him, God, I'm wrestling with this, whatever it is. What do you want me to see? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do in this wrestling? Maybe even write down what comes to mind. Because God meets us right where we are, even right in the middle of our uncertainty, fear, and weakness. He's not afraid of our questions and our doubts or our struggles. In fact, he loves us so much, he's willing to wrestle through our messes with us. And in the end, he saves us. Not because we deserve it, but because he loves us. So imagine living in quiet confidence that your identity is child of God. A life where you don't have to chase mountaintop experience after mountaintop experience, but every day, no matter how messy, you can trust that God has you. Where you are free to wrestle because you know it will bring you closer to your Heavenly Father. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to pretend to be strong enough. You can rest, you can trust, and you can enjoy the life Jesus offers. Because when we wrestle with God, we discover the strength of his love.